Chapter 22. Oh, make one, FGO number 1. Who would have thought that a place like this one actually existed in present times? I wasn't still sure what had happened, or why it happened, but for some reason I was now part of a literal grand order bent to protect humanity from various problems in the timeline. Heroes of various eras were summoned as servants, given classes, and sometimes even bestowed with unique abilities that matched with their legends if they hadn't any in their original version. From what the twins and Da Vinci said about my case, the reason why I existed now in a younger state of my own legend was because I was, by all means, a male version of Lily's servants. Of course there wasn't actually a classification like that, especially with how many other servants that were in the same circumstance like Alexander and Kid Gil. The closest example that could match my current state of being was Medusa as her rider class. I just heard of her, but still hadn't the chance of meeting her since both masters decided to bring her around for one of the current events or issues happening in this part of the year. Since I was still not accustomed enough to take part in real fighting, the heat here was far higher than I would have imagined. I was granted the chance of enjoying some time growing accustomed to the new environment. With the fact that I was a mere copy of my real self, and the guy was protecting everything at home, I was more than eager to take on the battles that I was going to face for the sake of helping mankind. Right now, I was quietly making my way to the cafeteria for lunch. Da Vinci had mentioned that there was a massive menu that encompassed pretty much all known human dishes, from modern times to other time periods. I was quite giddy at the prospect of checking how good the food was here, and if I could give it myself a try in making my own dishes. I was so distracted that I barely noticed that a silent figure had decided to stalk me around the halls. I reached my destination, and it was right as I checked on the holographic list that was available by the big counter away from the tables that I finally noticed that someone was walking up to me from behind. It was right as I turned that I felt my entire body tense up in surprise and glee. "Wait, you're here too?" I asked in surprise, leaning forward to look better at the smiling individual. "I mean, I would have expected you in the other set of clothes, but this is truly a surprise." The stalker giggled. "Now you're trying to flatter me. I didn't expect you to be summoned, Jojo." "Now you wound me, Ria." I regarded the petite blonde looking back at me with the greatest amount of purity and freedom she could muster. It was way different than I remember her being from recent times, but it wasn't a bad thing. Not at all. Who knows, maybe we ended up here because of our legendary deeds. I reckon we would have been summoned in our alternate names. I shrugged. Meh. Still, we ended up there. We shared a nod and a quick chuckle. "Oh, did you check any food?" "Not yet. I had to deal with sassy girl here," I mirthfully rebuked, getting a playful tap from her fist on my elbow. "But you seem to know something super secret and good." "What is it?" "It's a nice servant that usually prepares food for others, mostly my older selves." "Older selves?" "Wait, what is with that air quotes I'm hearing dash?" "Hey, who are you?" A sudden familiar voice exclaimed from one of the tables and we both turned to see, another Arturia. I frowned as I was surprised by the modern clothes this version was wearing. Baseball hat, a muffler, an open jacket that showed a white shirt with some kanji, short pants and some stocking. I should be the one asking that. "And, why are you yelling?" "First you have to explain to me why you are approaching so familiarly, my student. I can tell from a mere glance that you're a saber." "What?" "MHX is like that." Ria tried to explain, only for my frown to intensify together with my irritation. What does me being of the saber class do with her current attitude? Before the young Ria could have answered, I saw this MHX unsheath her blade and pointed it at me. I refused to allow my Padawan to be tainted by this stain. I glanced at Ria. "What?" "Just. I don't want you two to fight." Yet the escalation was continuing and I slowly grasped at Crochet Moore's hilt in preparation for that fight when. "Hey, what are you doing?" New intruders, and these ones had familiar faces too. There was older Ria, then Ria with golden eyes, also even older and bustier Ria with golden eyes. "And none of your concern," MHX remarked. "Just protecting my student from another saber." "I don't see where the problem really is about," I retorted. "I was summoned like this. Where is the trouble in that?" The old Ria, the one that had nothing different compared to the rest and the original, sighed tiredly. MHX comes from a future where her home is on the brink of collapse as there are too many sabers. "Wait, future? Which future?" "The one from where all sabers come from. Except Lily here." "Lily? What?" "WL, I come from Ria's universe so, does that make me an exclusion like her? She opened her mouth, seemingly ready to slam me down for asking that, only to stop as she realized what I had just said. You're from her dimension. Then why did you say that before all of this happened? Because you're the one making a scene. I said with a huff. I swear, you're as incorrigible as Rhea in that regard. MHX had the decency to look embarrassed, while Lily huffed at the comment. Still, I don't recall hearing you introducing yourself, good sir, the old Rhea pointed out. May you greet us with your real name? A swarm of Rhea wanted my name. Sure, why not? I'm Joseph Bukharin, King of Britannia and Saberclass. Ruler of, isn't that the Roman attribution of Britain? The normal lancer inquired. I nodded. That is correct. Rhea and I are the two rulers of the British Isles. You mean that, you're married to her? No dash. But we're more than just friends, the mirthful girl happily said, getting a sigh out of me and quite the frowns from the cadre of blondes. We've been summoned in our younger versions. I swear we're older when those events happened. And what events dash? Rhea. It's truly an interesting topic, the Dark Lancer muttered quietly. Still, I've to ask about, that pet name, Rhea. Where does that one come from? Oh, that's how she introduced herself to me, I explained more than happy. We didn't know at the time we were the individuals we were meant to know each other the day after that encounter, and we both used nicknames to identify ourselves. I was Rhea. And he was Jojo. We still are, I added mirthfully, getting a pretty sigh out of her. Yep. I don't want to sound disruptive or too suspicious. But I noticed how you said that you're more than just friends. Lily, aren't you still married to Guinevere in your dimension? Rhea's mouth opened and then closed as a blush spread on her face. You're really embarrassed of that after all the innuendo you went through with? It's not that easy to say. How about you say that to them? I shrugged. While we were both married when our bonding time happened, the circumstances are far from treacherous, I tried to elaborate. Our wives. Well, they had decided to organize a private celebration and alcohol was issued. One thing led to another and, yeah. So you didn't betray Guinevere's trust, Excalibur, Rhea affirmed, getting a nod from the original one. Yep. In fact, the opposite happened as Guinevere was fascinated by the event. So much that we made it a monthly occurrence. Monthly? I felt uneasy at the stares I was getting from the rest of the Rhea. While Excaliblast Rhea and MHX were giving me annoyed looks, the rest was giving me a very bizarre expression. Something I had seen on Rhea only when we were both in bed during one of these happenings. Actually, since you're here now. Rhea started pondering with a serious tone, drawing a nervous look out of me. Soon her eyes widened in realization, and she offered me the happiest smile she could offer. Do you want to see my bedroom? Gah. So direct. I guess you're not going to take a no. Nope. Couldn't it just wait for tonight? I wanted to check the rest of Chaldea for other familiar faces. There are two versions of Scathach, both of which aren't from our dimension. There is Merlin. And his female version, actually, there is a male King Arthur. That's interesting news, I commented, getting a sigh out of the girl. Morgan hasn't been summoned and there is a Mordred, but she isn't, well. Well, what? What's wrong with Mordred? Well dash. Father. I turned and saw a familiar armored young woman rushing towards us. Smiling, I ignored Rhea's warnings as I rushed to intercept her. Mordred tensed up, her helmet dropping as I took her in a tight hug. Ah, daughter. What? To be continued.